What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ruben. You know what it is. And now we are going to talk about, 2 weeks in the books now, free agency, off seasons in full effect, pretty much, right? Now we're looking at, supplemental picks. I'm not sure Jacksonville goes and gets anybody else right now. I think they're going to start looking towards the draft at this point. There are still some interesting guys out there in terms of like talent wise, but I'm not sure they mesh with what we're needing. So for instance, I think Pro Bowler Justin Simmons, if you watch my videos, I wanted Justin Simmons for the Cowboys. um, but he doesn't make sense for us after we signed Darnell Savage, and we got Antonio Johnson is supposed to be slotted in for more minutes at safety, and then of course we got Andre Cisco. Now I think we're going to be good at safety this year. Um, my only reservation for Antonio Johnson was I feel like he's kind of more of a box safety, a la Rayshon Jenkins. Although he has the upside, right? He's a younger guy. He's bigger than Rayshon, and he had experience, in the slot. The issue with Antonio Johnson was and always is going to be, until he proves otherwise, was can he, as a safety, you're the last line of defense. Can he handle plays going backwards, right? Because the knock on him is coming forward. He's a box safety, so to speak. He can, as long as things are in front of him, he's good. But can he cover guys downfield? Can he make plays on the ball downfield? That's what remains to be seen. And I actually want to see more of in with Cisco. In college, Cisco was a ball hawk. I don't think we used him to his full capabilities in the 3-4 system that we ran. Outside of, we saw him deliver some big hits. That was one that I wasn't sure I'd see from him, was him being able to deliver the blows the way he was. So that was a great surprise. But the ball hawkness from college hasn't necessarily translated. So I'm hoping the new system is gonna bring things up for them. So after week one, we talked about Trent Baalke and how he's kind of fumbled the bag situations with Josh Allen and how that played a part in losing Calvin Ridley. I don't think I've spoken to you guys since we lost Calvin Ridley, but I'm not going to give Trent Baalke too much. I think he completely messed that up, and it's only because I don't want to make every video a Trent Baalke sucks video, right? We got other stuff to talk about. Now, in terms of actual free agency outside of our own players, he's doing well. But again, I've stated this is the easy part. You evaluate talent from other teams, and that doesn't require a lot of scouting. You got film. These people, you got holes. You plug these people in like puzzle pieces, right? We needed Mitch Morse like we needed Air. But the big signing, Eric Armstead, huge deal, because a lot of us have been talking about how we need more edge. Now, he's not necessarily what I would consider an edge, but I have been saying I think we're fine at edge. It isn't edge that we need. Like can you always get better at edge? Can you get more edge? Yes. But I think we're fine at edge. But I think what we need more than that is interior pass rush. And that's what Eric Armstead provides. Now, it's my understanding he's going to be playing on the interior for us. And the great thing about him is he's a former DN. So he has the versatility to move all up and down the line. But I expect that we're going to use him a lot like we use Calais Campbell. So it was a big deal. I think it's going to severely help out the defense and Josh Allen. And it's going to only bode well for Trayvon Walker, especially because you have two different kinds of guys on the team that Trayvon Walker can learn from. Josh Allen, kind of a more well-rounded pass rusher, but I don't want to use this term because that's a negative connotation. If you want to say finesse, he's kind of more of a speed rusher than a power rusher. And then you have Eric Armstead, who's more of a power rusher. So you have two guys that you can kind of, ping pong ideas off of. And Eric Armstead's kind of more closer to Trayvon Walker's freakish build as well. Now, Eric Armstead, I just want to temper expectations, because while I am happy about it and while it does help out a lot, the thing with him is twofold. He's not Calais Campbell. I don't think he was as talented as Calais Campbell was coming out of Arizona. Number one, I don't think he was nearly as dominant as Calais Campbell was. So I don't expect a Calais Campbell type of impact. Now you never know because I think we have so much talent now in the front seven with his addition. Um, you never know how the talent plays off each other, but I think he's going to be very good. But again, he's not Calais Campbell. Um, but he's going to have a similar impact, right? And that's all I can ask for. The second part is the injuries. He's been injured the last couple of years. His best season, he had like 10 sacks, but it was like 3 seasons ago. And they were primarily with him playing at the end. Now, he hasn't quite seen that success since he's moved inside. And it looks like he moved inside because they had to make a choice between him and DeForest Buckner. And they let Buckner walk. And he kind of played more of the Buckner role and playing more interior ever since he left. So San Fran, like they're starting to lose some big pieces, but I'll digress. That's a whole nother video. I like what we're doing on defense. I liked Ronald Darby. I don't know if I talked about him enough. I liked him back in the day when he was with the Bills. It feels like a long time ago, and it feels like multiple surgeries ago. And that's my only concern with Ronald Darby. And we have no depth at corner. I'm curious what we're going to do with Darnell Savage. I think we're going to have a lot more three safety looks, and that's becoming more prevalent in this day and age in the NFL because if you don't have you either need plenty of corners, and the teams that don't have plenty of corners are now looking to they've essentially created a new position, the big nickel, right? And that's basically having your safety who is, not quite as good as a corner, but better than a linebacker at coverage, right? And they're starting to play three safeties. Like look at Baltimore. They had Williams. They drafted Kyle Hamilton and Geno Stone, and Geno Stone had a phenomenal year, but he's now left. But they played a lot of three safety looks. So I'm wondering if we're going to take pages from them. Cowboys, they played a lot of three safety looks. Donovan Wilson was kind of their hammer. They played the middle of the field. You guys get the point. So the other big thing I want to talk about, because I am hype about the defense. It sucks we're going to lose Calvin Ridley, but I think we'll be fine in the long run. There was lots of corners in this draft, lots of speed at wide receiver in this draft. So I honestly think we're going to probably be looking at corner unless a big time receiver falls or unless they make a big move to move up for a receiver. And I think, man, a lot of people are talking about Roma Dunze, but I have become a fan in the last week as I'm doing some of my draft, work in terms of, watching film on these guys. I'm loving the LSU guys. If one of the two, there's actually 5 pass catchers that could all go in the top 10, but I have a hard time fathoming that all 5 would go in the top 10. So I feel like somebody's going to fall. And here's the 5 pass catchers. The obvious, Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't see how he makes it to us. And then everybody's talking about Roma Dunze. As far as I've seen, I like Roma Dunze, but there's nothing that I see from him that I'm like, you know what, I love this kid. It really is going to translate into a big time wide receiver. I think he'll be fine, right? But think like a Keenan Allen, right? And I know Keenan Allen had a big time year last year, but does he give you Jamar Chase? Does he give you you're fine with Keenan Allen, right? You're not like, oh man, I'm ready to compete with those big time receivers when you get a Keenan Allen. That's what I see in Roma Dunze. He's fine. He's really good, has the size, but he doesn't quite have the burner type speed that you expect from a true number one. And then again, I'm really in love with the LSU guys. But before I get to the LSU guys, the third pass catcher is Brock Bowers. Now, he's one that I think could slide because I think there's going to be a run on wide receiver. And I don't think he makes a lot of sense for us, but he might be too good to pass up. He doesn't make sense for us because we signed Evan Ingram. We really don't need him. We signed Evan Ingram, and not only did we sign Evan Ingram, we drafted Brenton Strange, I believe, in the 2nd round last year. wouldn't make sense at all. But I'd hate to pass on that kind of talent. I think you draft the best available. If they fall like that, then hey, maybe you work out a trade for Evan Ingram after this year, right? I believe he only signed a 3-year extension anyway. Um, so that's 3 pass catchers. The other 2 are the LSU guys. Malik Neighbors is the guy I love to death, but I don't see how Malik Neighbors gets to us. He's the one that when I watch on film reminds me a lot of Justin Jefferson. I don't want to say he's going to be him, but like you see the flashes of Justin Jefferson in terms of like just the suddenness, the quickness, the explosion out of routes. That it looks like every time you watch him explode out of routes and leave the corner, it's like the corner surprise, like, wow, I couldn't believe he was that explosive. That reminds me of Justin Jefferson. And then Brian Thomas is the guy that like I feel like could fall, but I think everybody else is seeing the same thing we see. Kid 6'4" with 4.3 speed. It's otherworldly freakish stuff that you're seeing out of these guys. Those are the guys that I want, that if they get anywhere near 10, outside of Brock Bowers, of course, because I don't think you trade up for that. But outside of, him, if any of them gets near 10, I think it's time to start talking about trade up. And I would pull that trigger. I really would. The other thing I want to talk about and touch on is the big rumor, and it's kind of got water doused on it. And I'm personally glad. I know a lot of us were upset, or I don't want to say upset. Upset's too strong, but a lot of us were talking about Brandon Ayuk. I don't want Brandon Ayuk, and the reason I don't want Brandon Ayuk is, he had a career year this year. I think he's a bit overrated. A lot of people, are in the fantasy. He had a huge year for fantasy heads, but I don't want that guy that we're going to pay him like a number one, and I don't find him to be a number one. Now, he still has room to grow because he's fairly young, but I don't watch Brandon Ayuk and think that guy should get paid like Justin Jefferson seating. Like, I don't think he believes he belongs in that tier, and I think that's what it's going to take to pay for him. Plus, they're probably going to want a first-round pick for him. Wide receivers are expensive. I mean, I just wouldn't do it. Like, if we were to draft him, if he came cheap, under those parameters, maybe I'd go for it. But I don't want a Brandon Ayuk. I want either a young developmental project or a number one guy. I don't want the middle of the road guy that we're overpaying for. And I think a lot of us are getting smarter in that regard. I go back and forth with us a lot on what a person's worth or how good a person is or what kind of moves we should make. This is one that I think is renewing my faith in some of the Jags faithful and some of the debates that I'm having about whether we should acquire a guy or not, because it was rumored they wanted the first and Zay Jones. And I absolutely wouldn't give up the 17th pick for Brandon Ayuk. Absolutely not. Guys, you got to remember, Trevor's coming up. Siskel's coming up. Tyson Campbell's coming up. We still got to pay Allen. Trayvon Walker is going into year 3. He's going to be coming up. You guys got to keep all of that in mind, right? We got a lot of guys that we got to pay on our own. So when you got to be judicious on who that big move is going to be made for, and make sure he's a difference maker, because the guy that we bring in is going to cost us some other guys, and you guys want to keep that in mind. So I think if we stay put at 17, it's more than likely going to be a corner. I think they're going to make plays for offensive line. We got to start planning for the future for the offensive line. Joe Alt, like if these receivers are so good, they might push really good guys down. So if Joe Alt falls, I think we're making the move for Joe Alt. Okay, and now we have bookend tackles for the next decade. That's another big move I'd consider. These wide receivers and quarterbacks might push guys like Joe Alt down. Now, I can't imagine he makes it to 17, but if he gets close enough, I'd trade up for Joe Alt as well. The tackle situation has been bad for far too long. All right, but that's all I got for today, guys. Let me know what you think. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. You guys got anything we want to debate, talk about, I'll be looking in the comments, and then check out the next video. All right, peace.